Hi, today I'm going to show you how to set up the grid feature in Quest and also element animations. We're going to show you that real quick with this Figma file. As you can see, I have a grid of repeating elements. These are all different cards. The setup here is just one large repeat component, and then I have nested component variants in here. So each one of these is going to be imported into Quest. What I'm going to do is just take the Quest plugin, pick my project. I'm going to check on the with nested components instances, and I'm going to hit export component. Now what this is going to do is import the repeat 3 component, but also all of its children, the product card 1. And as that processes, you can see that happening here. What this is doing is it's bringing it up into Quest. So now I'm going to just hit view in Quest. And the first thing we're going to do is see the larger component with the cards inside. And you can see it's nicely set up. The cards are already set up to have responsiveness, so you can see they're responsive. But what I want to do is actually make this a grid, right? So I'm going to click on this thing here, repeat 3, go over to the feature and add the grid. Now in the grid we have different options. I can set the padding between the gaps. I can say vertical and horizontal padding. I can also say what's the minimum width that I want it to be. The max width will always be 1FR. For this demo, I'm just going to show you the preview of this. But if I wanted to make this real, I would actually go in here and say what the data source is. Just as an example, I said data.items. Also for the item var itself, for the loop, I would just say what it is. I'm just going to give it something generic so we can look at the code later. But for the preview mode, what I want to do is just say, like, maybe I want it to be 9. I want 9 cards to come through. So now I just did that. When I go up to preview, you can see this is all set up. So now I have 9 cards. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 on this, and then the last one 9 at the bottom. So we made a nice card. Grid, so you can see they're responsive. And once you get to a certain point, it actually snaps over. Now I have 9 here just like this. So nice grid, very easy to set up. This is great for, doing e-commerce, having products. So nice, but let's do something else. I'm going to get out of preview mode. I'm going to go to my components, and you can see it also imported the card because I imported the nested components as well. So we're going to go into this card. We're going to just set something up. We're going to set up an animation. So on the top layer, this is the layer of the component. I'm going to add a feature. We're going to go to Animate Element. And for this, what I want to do is have while hovering. So as I hover, I want to scale up. And I could just preview that real quick and see how it scales. So that looks good. So while I'm hovering, it's going to scale up a little bit. Also, I'll just click on the picture here. Maybe what I want to do too is animate this, but I'll have on appear. Let's have that fade into place, and I'll make that nice and slow, and I'll give it a little bit of a delay too. You can just preview that and see how it fades. In fact, that's even still a little fast. Hit preview, and you can see it fades nicely into place. So that looks good. I'm going to go back to my repeat 3 component, and we're going to hit preview mode again and see what that looks like. Now, because I set that up on each card, now it was a little fast, so I think we missed it. We can just hit reload, and you can see all the images animating into place on appear. And as I roll over them, I have the really nice scale. So very cool, all responsive, super fast to set all this up. The last thing I'll do real quick is we'll just download the code. I'll just get the component files. You can also just do an entire app package if you just wanted to do npm install and start. But just for this case, I'm just going to grab the JavaScript, download the code, and take a look at that. So in here we have the JSON and the source component. We put every component in its own folder. So this is just for this. So you can actually just take a look at that. If I wanted to export the entire app, I could do that, and it'll give me all the components in my app. But just for example, we're going to open this up, and you can see that there's 2 files. One is the presentation layer, and one is the grid. So I'm sorry, one is the presentation file, one is the actual business logic. So in this you can see this is the very simple, because this is just the grid itself, it's not the component card itself. So you can just see that this is the CSS at the top, and then this is how it works. So very, very simple, very clean. And then if I wanted to write some logic, that's where I would do that. And you can see that this is where you would start to set up some of the, how do you actually want to populate the data for the grid. Instead of just a preview mode, you can actually make this and connect it to real data for how many grid items and what the actual things should be. So if I wanted to do that, I would set up, you know, an actual prop for the images, and I can really get into more details about that later. But this is how you would set all that up. And yeah, good to go.